Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think you'll find today's presentation a little bit different. If you think about this course and your decision to take the course and those kinds of things, the scenario I now think is the case, I mean the real truth about the value of the course, the impact of the course, is that before January 20th, 2025, when DeepSeek was released, you couldn't really say for sure that anything you learned in this course was going to play out and be the real reality and benefit you, right? There was no guarantee of that because almost every AI scenario was kind of one-off, a single path, and if that path worked, great, but if it didn't, then the predicted benefit wouldn't be there, right? And now the situation is so much the opposite of that. Because DeepSeek is open access, it's cheap, it's small file size, you can put it on your phone and so on. There are other competing AI models that are equally good or better from China, and then you have the US 500 billion Stargate project sort of added to that. That what you can say today is that it is almost a certainty that the good things AI can do will happen. Because there are now so many paths. You can imagine today, there are hundreds of people running DeepSeek, right? And soon there'll be thousands and millions, right? And then the Alibaba model, which is supposedly better, and so on. So there's so many ways to get to the positive outcome now that just wasn't true before January 20th. So your life is potentially better. The possibility of a positive outcome of some brand of AI utopia is more likely now. And people who are doing good things in the world that don't quite completely solve a problem, but could solve it with AI are much more likely to be able to come to that final solution. So it's very good news for everybody. And I think even if your basic interest in AI is very low, like you don't spend any time thinking about it in your family, you're the person who is the least AI favoring, right? It's still impactful for you because just in terms of planning the future, it's nice to think that a positive future and a future freedom is possible for you, that kind of no matter what happens, you do good things and so on. And I just think that's more likely today, since January 20th and the release of these models, than it was before. So the course is more valuable, your life is potentially better. Yeah, everybody, yeah. So it's really cool, and I just wanted to kind of frame it in that general way. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is AI's Sputnik moment, artificial intelligence greatly increasing the pace of innovation and scientific discovery, ending the organ shortage by 2039, in other words, within 14 years, and how you personally, each one of you, can take part in the big advances and share the optimism about the future. And I'm not just faking it, I'm not thinking it's really not true, but I'm going to tell you it's true. No, I really do think it's true. And I think you can be even more confident about that now than you could have before January 20th. Okay, so let's just take the individual components of this. So this is the Stargate announcement, also from January 20th. So $500 billion? Did you ever think of your head of what you could do at $500 billion? It's a whole lot of money. So the main thing Sam Altman, the person at the podium there, the CEO of OpenAI, talked about was curing all diseases. Not just curing some diseases or curing a few diseases, but all diseases. Imagine that. And there wasn't any pushback. You won't find anybody on that day who said, well, he said that, but no, people, I think partly 500 billion is such a huge amount that they just thought, oh, sure, you're spending 500 billion, you can cure them all. But that statement had the same potential uncertainty that I was talking about before with the course. How do you know the course was going to benefit you before January 20th? You really couldn't be sure. Because this is kind of one path. We don't know that they're really going to generate the 500 billion. We don't know that this Stargate thing will work out. So if it was all dependent on this, then you could say, well, maybe they'll cure all diseases, but maybe something will happen and they won't, right? So the thing that's exciting now is to think of the very large number of paths toward the same goal. And you can almost imagine each one of you having a phone with DeepSeek on it and you know, probing the phone for how to fix some big problem, right? And accidentally finding something that seems exciting and then sharing it with others and so on. It's a kind of fantasy that you probably never had before, right? I mean, it seems probably to you so impossible that you never even considered that, right? But, so if this was all that happened, it still could have been possible that it wouldn't happen really. It was a fantasy that didn't come true, right? But then with DeepSeek, which actually came out on the same day, January 20th, it is so small, so much better in many ways at many of the benchmark performances and so on. You can run it on a phone or a laptop or something like that. The file size isn't all that big. And so I think when you then consider all the paths towards artificial general intelligence and all the big things that AI can do, it just seems like the likelihood is we'll get there and these things will happen. Because if it doesn't happen with this group of AI, there's so many people running high-end AI that it probably will happen. Now, you weren't around in 1957, any of you, right? But I was. And 1957 is when Sputnik was launched. And I remember how surprising it was. I was 11 years old. I was an impressionable young person. And we never thought about putting satellites in the sky or, competing with Russia in a space race. It was just not a thing. But when the satellite went up, as simple as it was, it didn't really do that much. It wasn't that big and so on. But it was something no one had ever done before. And it changed everything. President Kennedy gave this big speech on TV about we will go to the moon, and all this stuff. All because of that, yeah? So what DeepSeek has done is kind of similar to that. So people are talking about that as a Sputnik moment. So even though you weren't alive in 1957, you have now witnessed the Sputnik moment because you were alive in 2025, right? So that's kind of cool. I've experienced 2 of those moments. You've experienced 1. Yeah. So, and it's even cool that that's not all China's got. You know, if you thought, well, the whole country got together and did this DeepSeek thing, and you know, that's all they've got. They don't have that anymore. But that's apparently not true. They have other companies. Another company, Alibaba, says that their AI model, Quinn 2.5 Max, is actually better than DeepSeek, and there's probably others beyond that. So, what do you think about loose ends and presentations with loose ends? And you think this presentation is going to have any loose ends? I would argue in 2025, if you give a presentation that doesn't have any loose ends, it's outmoded. It's old news, right? We can't possibly satisfy your need for information about everything about what I'm talking about today. So loose ends can save the world, so don't be concerned about that. What are some of the loose ends? Well, I think one way to think about this is think about Michael Levin. So he's at Tufts and Harvard. He has appointments at both those places. And he specializes in something very unusual that most people know nothing about, which is bioelectricity. That in lower animals, you can give a signal in a part of the body where an organ can be, just an electrical signal, and the body will then assemble the cells and create the organ without any instructions beyond that, just that electrical signal. It works a little bit in mammals and in human mesenchyme, not yet in other human cells, but he's getting closer and closer. Now, think of that problem of ending the organ shortage, having an abundance of organs, surplus of organs for everybody, right? We could save 1 million lives a year. It would be a really big deal if we had that. And you know, all of medicine would be greatly improved and so on. But probably it's a bit like protein folding. When protein folding was solved by AlphaFold, it was not just AI. Like somebody said, hey, AI solved protein folding. And it thought about it and did the thing. No, it isn't that at all. Humans had been doing this for a long time, getting better and better, but they weren't very good at it. There was, I think, a prize every year for who could get closest to predicted structure and that sort of thing. So it was a hybrid accomplishment. It was humans plus AI. And it probably wouldn't have occurred with just AI or just humans. So that's what I think is the case with ending the organ shortage. Probably what Michael Levin knows about bioelectricity is not quite enough to get us there, but it's a necessary part, just like all the people, all the humans who were predicting protein folding all those years and getting slightly better at the benchmark, but never all that good. Yeah. So how is it going to work then? How are we going to get this additional message from AI to add to what Michael Levin already knows and to create the winning plan, right? So what we don't know is whether it is necessary for humans to be humble. Well, I think it might be. What do I mean by that? A lot of successful researchers are used to running the show. Well, why not? If they're successful, then the plan the lab follows is their plan, right? They sit down with the other people in the team, they decide on the plan, and that's what happens, right? But if we're saying this problem is not something humans can do on their own, it is possible that to some extent, however it would work, we don't know how it would work. Maybe we should give AI more of a voice in the conversation, not necessarily having them entirely run the show, but be particularly respectful of ideas from the AI side that seem a bit crazy to us, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe it would work just fine with the humans kind of feeling they're in charge, but still using AI. But I really think, when I'm saying each of you could play a role, think of how you would naturally approach this. Would it have a lot of humility, a little, none? Would it be like very macho, I'm in charge here? We don't know which one of those approaches would really work best, and how to identify the AI ideas, the AI hypotheses, the AI suggestions that are actually going to be practical, actionable, and help move us toward the goal. We don't have any experience with this. It isn't really like protein folding, and so there's not been like an annual competition for creating organs from bioelectricity or, no, there hasn't been. So, and you probably remember the list I'm going to show you later, the big 24 challenges of the human race that AI can help with. This isn't the only challenge. There are lots of other ones like that. And it is possible one of you in this room, or more than one of you, could really have the idea that makes the difference, right? It doesn't mean that you have to spend 100,000 hours, studying stem cells or something. It could be that just your thought process, your approach happens to be the thing that works. Who knew that was the approach? The way you think actually was better at finding the way to finally solve this hybrid problem we need AI and human ideas for. And what about even identifying targets? As far as I can tell, that is still rare. I get this list of sort of targets in general, and then I've identified kind of this idea of stem cell generation of complex organs using bioelectricity, and this may be the place to start. For some reason, other people are not really identifying specific targets, as far as I can tell, or maybe they're secret. But so even that's worth doing, worth publicizing, getting more people to do, right? Because if nobody's thinking of targets, nothing's going to really happen, right? People just talk about the general stuff and never do anything specific. So the bottom part of this is completely different, but also important for you to think about. Everybody in education these days is aware of the big problem with AI, and that is that we thought AI was going to tutor you. It's got to be the ideal tutor, right? We just say, hey, look, you just spent a lot of time with AI and you learn all these things. But what students around the world and of all different ages and so on sort of decided to do is rather than learning from AI, just let AI do the work and then take credit for what AI has done, right? Learn nothing, just tell the AI what to do and then report that as your own result, right? And so that's not tutoring, right? So that's also related to this part. Peter Diamandis saying that when the AI is internalized, when it's kind of inside you, or maybe even when it's on your phone, you will never turn it off, right? It'll seem like it adds so much to your life that you can't imagine ever not having it there, right? But what I'd like to develop some enthusiasm amongst some of you for is the idea of being, in a state of solitude with your own thoughts and that sort of thing. Is that really not worth anything? I know that most young people today, they're not in solitude all that often, but when it does happen, do you value it at all? Or are you just thinking, geez, I'm so dumb, I never want to do this again. I need external stimulation, or there's like nothing there, right? So it seems to me that this is an area that we can work on quite a bit. Not just the question of whether you have interesting enough mental output, interesting to you, that it would be worth turning off the AI every now and then to just be alone with your own thoughts. But also, if you don't, whether content providers could help with that, where rather than turning on the AI right away, you could get content from some other human to sort of help you think about things, help you, meditate, whatever it is, right? And try that. I just don't like the idea that nobody's going to ever turn off the AI. What does that say about us humans, And how can we then be responsible for anything if AI helps us with everything we ever do, right? And think about things that you might not want that for. Think of end-of-life care, right? Your life's coming to an end or somebody else's life is coming to an end. Do you really want AI advising you on that? If it's somebody that you've known very well, wouldn't it be nice to just have what's playing out there, your relationship with that person, right? Without any other intervening thing. And it's not just dying. What about big successes, right? When you're feeling really great because you've had a real wonderful success experience, it doesn't seem satisfying somehow if you only share that with AI. It seems like it's missing something, right? You want to look some other humans in the eye and smile and jump around and, celebrate, right? So I think even that extends into the period where we don't have jobs anymore, where we're spending time doing this great stuff that we really enjoy, which is often interacting with other humans. I think friends and family and that sort of thing, and getting together and doing things together, and shared virtual reality experiences and so on. You can imagine all the things you might be doing. But it seems like I really just see, this sort of become a new goal of mine, to have some of the people in this course really become convinced that they can turn off the AI every now and then and still benefit from that. That would just be good, I think. And it seems like something we should all want. And don't feel guilty if you don't want that at all, because I understand that might be the case. But But now think of the bottom part of this. Stuart Russell. So this is also fascinating. Think if you were the most famous AI author, the person who had written the most successful textbooks about AI, that's a situation with Stuart Russell. Don't you think you'd sort of be in love with AI, right? But he isn't. He clearly isn't. He's worried about what AI is going to do and trying to figure out how to get rid of AI. So he's saying that we really should not be content till we're sure what AI is doing matches human desires, right? What we want, right? But what he says here is, if AI cannot match human preferences, it would simply get up and leave, fly away, cease to exist. How can he possibly want that, right? But and so the thing is, he's a unique enough guy, so almost nobody in the world arguing with him about these things, except David Pierce and me, and I don't know if he even knows about us, but anyway. So as far as I can tell, there's no critique of his work at all out there, except for the critique that David Pierce and I did. But one of the things that comes up over and over is he says that humans must always be in charge, right? And you know, when that can't be arranged, we should get rid of AI. And to me, it just doesn't make any sense, right? Because as AI becomes more and more capable, it doesn't make sense. Why would anybody want us to be in charge if AI is so much better at, you know, decision making and thinking and so on? So those are two other things for you to ponder. Do you have enough for an internal mental life that you can actually entertain yourself? Or when you turn the AI off, you get deeply depressed, you know? So, anyway, yeah. All right. I think I'm going to skip that. This is probably too medical for you guys. Yeah, so you know, one of the interesting things that's happened to me, and if you think of, you know, if your life gets better in one way, it that also enhances. Like, I knew about what I'm about to tell you about my own health since June 1st, 2024, and I only knew about the AI stuff since January 20th. But for age 78, I don't have any of the chronic disease things that I thought most 78-year-olds would have, and I never knew why. I sort of knew it wasn't happening. You know, I thought of a pain that would never go away, or I begin walking funny, or sort of forget how my legs work, and all that sort of thing. Or, you know, cataracts, or decreased bone density where you can fracture bones more easily, or a whole host of things, joint disease, and so what we now think is the situation is that my original mentor, when I started training in pathology at Johns Hopkins, 1972-73, was so fascinated that I chose to do something additional, which was to get 5 undergraduate students like you guys from Oberlin College to spend time with me in January 1973, and I taught them about medicine and life while Johns Hopkins was teaching me, you know, pathology in my first year. And he said, no one does that. Everybody's so frightened when they begin medicine that they would never voluntarily take on another job at the same time. So this is so remarkable. You should keep on doing it. And so I have continued the whole 52 years since then, January 1973, to surround myself with young people that I'm training. So most older people don't do that, right? They're looking for sort of better office corner, better furniture, better view, right? And really priding themselves on hanging out with people their own age, right? Because that's the only normal thing to do, right? So I have never done that. But I did that because my original mentor and boss thought it was a good thing for me to continue. It never occurred to me that it would have any health benefits. But in rats and mice, you can transfer longevity with the microbiome. So presumably that's what's happened. Like when you're in a room with somebody else, you share the microbiome with them, and you can show that. It probably occurs a bit more than you might like to think, but yeah. So I've been sharing the microbiome of all the people that I've trained. There are like 55 such people over the years between then and now. Yeah, and it gives me like 20 plus years of extra active life than I ever thought I would have, which is really cool. I think I imagine life being such that as you approach 80, there's a famous pathologist, Virchow, who had a really fantastic 80th birthday party and then died at age 81, I think. So anyway, but I would imagine that maybe the big birthday party for me should be 90 or 100 or something like that. So it is really, really surprising. But without the AI advances, then I'm still not sure I can be that confident of having a positive outcome in my life. Just like I don't think you could have been sure of that. But now, anyway, it seems much more likely, and that's cool. So, yeah, I guess we don't. This is Haba Mahal, and she and I had this idea of the oral tradition, like things like what I just told you about the microbiome. Does that sound like something that should be written down in detail? I don't know. It's a bit off-putting, right? Probably a better thing to receive as a kind of oral communication, just kind of keep it in mind, right, rather than having it written down. And we think there are lots of other things like that. There's some specialties in medicine where the amount of humor you can measure, and those specialties are less humorous than any other. And we have definitive data. You think it helps anybody to write that down? I don't think so. You can imagine knowing about it and planning how you're going to bring up the spirits in that medical specialty. And then after you've done that, you can look back and see how the sense of humor has improved. But I think writing down that they have the lowest sense of humor is probably not a good idea. So I have these predictions of when artificial general intelligence, like weak AGI, was going to come, and they seem to have been pretty close to being right on. There was a prediction that would be in September 2024, and indeed the OpenAI O1 model was September 12th, 2024, and the O3 model was December 20th, 2024. Yeah, I've been interested in this kind of thing for a long time. I launched something called National Kidney Foundation Cyber Nephrology in May 1997, and I still have the audio file, and it's interesting. I sound sort of the same as I sound now. You know, it was a long time ago. And this was one of the slides that I had at that time, and I guess I'm interested in the same thing. Increasing kindness, decreasing gloom, and so on, and making sure that the technology is not making us unhappy, but it is, you know, contributing to human well-being. So I'm still interested in those things. And one of the other cool things about the future is I've discovered there are these philosophers who are now getting known as philosophers of the future or philosophers about the future, and many of them are women. And, you know, there aren't a lot of female philosophers, at least in the English language. I was telling somebody who's from Brazil about this, and he was saying the most famous philosopher in Brazil is female. So anyway. It's not something that women can't do. But I think that's kind of cool if we have more and more female influence in philosophy. Yeah. Okay, I really don't think you need the details of all this stuff. Yeah, there is a new IEEE standard that tells you when you're communicating with something, whether it is human, AI assisted by a human, or human assisted by an AI, or synthetic. So those 5 possibilities, and we have graphics and also sounds that identify that for you. I talked about creating complex organs with AI plus bioelectricity, but even harder, of course, is composite tissue grafts. Things with many different kinds of tissue, like hands and faces and stuff. So that, I think, will also be possible. Yeah. Now, you may wonder how my work on that compares to everybody else's working in the same field, but I'm amused. There's virtually no one else talking about that, right? It seems to be such, in most people's minds, it's so unlikely that we could succeed with composite tissue grafts. They're not even writing about how we can make that work with AI. Yeah, so this is Rich Sutton, who is my most important influence here in AI, and this is Michael Levin, who I've been talking about as a scientist who came up with the idea of bioelectricity. Yeah, and I'm currently working with him and enjoying that a lot. So these are the various stages of AI, and it's moving quite quickly. We're now at the reasoner stage. We're already talking actively about agents and innovators. And so probably we'll get rid of, through all these by 2026. We'll even have organizations created by AI. So you don't have to wait very long. You'll see all this happening. Yeah. And so think about this idea of technology beyond human ken. It's not really beyond what we can do, right? Because if we collaborate with AI, we can do things that we don't understand. And we've been thinking about, is that we don't understand at all, or we don't understand completely. We're thinking maybe with poetry and music and stuff, you can provide a bridge where you kind of have a feeling for it, even though you don't maybe understand all the details because your brain is unable to. Yeah. So this is just the idea of what we can do that, and this fits in then with this list of the 24 big challenges of the human race that AI can help with, which relates in some way to yeah, so precision medicine is just another kind of precision medicine. Shows one of the problems of not being able to get the right cells in the right places. These brown staining cells out here should ordinarily only be here. So we really don't know how to fix that. Similarly with the urine concentrating ability of the kidney, with these long loops of Henle, very hard to reproduce that. Yeah, so this is the last slide. And this is a quote from Joe Biden's final address as president, a fair shot for everyone. So I guess that's what I wish for you in this room, that, you know, that it's not just you're learning about something that other people will do, but you could actually play an active role in this, and yeah. So, and you may question that now. You may later think back to today and say, well, he was right, or no, he wasn't. It happened, but I had nothing to do with it. Yeah. So anyway, either outcome's okay. Okay, so any questions about this? Yeah.
For the tissue graphs and AI, which one do you think is the most difficult thing to do? Like,
well, I think that when you think of what is a successful outcome, you compare hands and faces. A hand doesn't have to look good to be functional, right? Whereas a face sort of should. So I think probably faces are the hardest. And so relatively few face transplants have been done. I don't know how many of you ever thought of having a pet monkey. Is that something you ever thought about? Yeah? Well, it's dangerous because you may need a face transplant, because monkeys know how to literally rip your face off, right? So some of the face transplants were people who had monkeys as pets and had their face ripped off in that way. Yeah, it's just something you never knew about monkeys, maybe. Yeah.
No. And what's the role of AI in this?
Yeah, so AI, first of all, like if you say clinical trials, okay, to establish anything, there have to be clinical trials, right? And so one of the, quotes, dangers of AI is that it has quite impressive persuasive powers. It can talk you into things maybe better than another human. And so we'll be able to use that to improve the recruitment for clinical trials, right? So is that ethical?
But that was my following question.
Yeah,
it's unethical, right?
So no, I think that's one of the most interesting ethical questions, because people often just stop with the reluctance that they know is there. Well, you know, clinical trials in this area, like, so let's say pig to human transplants. When I went to the Mayo Clinic, one of the comments about my talk was, well, the clinical trials are going to go quite slowly because already in most normal humans, a kind of suspicion about science, right? A lot of people don't really buy science anyway. And then reluctance to take part in an unproven therapy. They're happy to do something once it's been shown to work on other people, but they don't necessarily want to be the person to do it first. So AI could change that. You could say, hey, AI, give me a promotional campaign here so that I can get a lot more people who want to join these clinical trials, and you could make that happen. It's, there are ethical questions about it. There are lots of questions about xenotransplants. One is really very simple. It's a kind of ick factor, right? Do you want to feel guilty every time you see a pig in the future because you know so many family members who now have pig organs, and you know that pigs never agreed to this? They don't really understand what's happening. It's just they're now being bred for human organs, right? Yes.
Out of all the animals, like, why pigs though?
So, they have approximately human-sized organs or larger. They're easy to breed. The non-human primates, you can imagine, you probably even know some of the names. There have been lots of people studying the primate species, their culture, and so on. And even though pigs may be as intelligent as a lot of those primates, we don't have enough knowledge about sort of pig culture that, we wouldn't be able to use pigs because it just seems, how could you interfere with the lives of something with that kind of culture? But with non-human primates, that is the case. That several decades ago, I think her name is Jane Goodall, gave a talk at one of the transplant meetings, and the transplant physicians just realized we cannot use non-human primates as a source of organs because it's just not going to work. So there are lots of other practical reasons too that the genetics work out less well. There are less compatibilities, believe it or not, between non-human primates than with pigs. Like the barriers to overcome are greater with non-human primates, even though you would think it would be the other way around. Religious leaders in almost all faiths have said that this use of pigs is, acceptable within the faith because it's saving lives. So, yeah.
I just have a question about the stages of AI that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I think the third one was talking about innovation, is that correct?
Yeah, this is just like what I was talking about, scientific breakthroughs that we would never have been capable of, that AI allows us to do. Now, I didn't fully answer your question about why do you need AI to make success of stem cell generated organs or bioelectricity or whatever. I just think it's too complicated for us. There's a paper in 2013 of decellularizing and recellularizing rat kidneys, and it's just impossible to get the right cells in the right places. And really, we haven't made any progress since then in that I can tell. We can keep the blood flowing through the organs, but all the tubular cells die and stuff, it just doesn't work. And so you can think about it various ways. When humans have brain implants, maybe, and their intelligence is increased, would some of those augmented humans be able to think of these things? Maybe. So maybe it isn't just that humans can't do it, but unaugmented humans can. It has to either be humans plus AI or humans with a brain implant, so they're smarter than regular humans. Yeah. And I think that the surprising thing for me since January 20th is this idea of multiple paths to the goal. I never thought about that before. I was quite aware when I was thinking about how AI might be successful, there might just be one instance of it being successful, and we didn't know that would occur for sure. And now it seems likely that that won't be the case at all, that it'll sort of, there will be multiple origins of many of the big breakthroughs, because so many people will have functioning high-end AI. So, yeah. But I still think that it's probably true that being humble is worth something, because the arrogant, my way or the highway guy might reject the AI's best suggestion that if followed would have led to success, but because it doesn't really fit with the person in charge, right? Yeah, so I think that's part of what we will learn is what kind of thinking style works best for doing this kind of negotiation with AI and receiving information from AI. And then what about the black box side of it, right? AI may suggest something that it knows is going to work because it understands something that you don't understand, that you actually can't be taught, right? That we lack the mental capacity to understand the thing. Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Are there other questions? So I just want to remind you that after today, I'm in India, and so for the next 2 teaching sessions with Jack Tazinski on quantum biology, the TAs are really in charge. There is no recording. It's in this room. You have to be here to experience what happened. On the other hand, Jack has been teaching this content now for 10, 11, 12 years, so you can see other videos. Yes?
I'm just wondering, in general, for the last talk you did, why do you record some and not record the others? Just wondering.
We used to record them all. It's interesting. So not recording them is a very recent thing. One thing that happened, just imagine this. You know that I bring a tripod. I used to bring lights. Why would I bring lights? Because sometimes the screen is too bright, so the person looks dark, right? So, and I thought that was bad video, so I brought lights. And one of the lecturers one day came with sunglasses. He thought the lights were hurting his eyes, and I realized the whole thing is ridiculous. The students don't require that we have perfect lighting of the person speaking, So I stopped doing the lighting, and then Oscar Cyan. People's life situations are different. He's getting too many invitations to speak, and a lot of them are for superficial reasons, he thinks. That he looks good on video, people want to get somebody to come talk to them who looks good on video, right? And so it was actually, he's kind of maxed out. He doesn't want to be getting more invitations to speak, particularly for people who get the idea of inviting him from, you know, YouTube videos. He just didn't need that anymore. So he asked me if we could stop shooting the video. Yeah, and it really does give a different vibe. I mean, if you think of the conflict, the internal conflict every student felt during COVID about physical presence versus not, you know, I mean, it was just crazy, you know. It's amazing we all develop serious mental illness, right? So then, as things wound down from that, there was the question, now that we know how to do these hybrid sessions, you know, why do the students ever have to come to class? But it's better to have the students come to class and actually have face-to-face. So anyway, we've done it all. We had very good hybrid sessions during COVID, and you laugh. I had this gigantic cart with all the stuff I was bringing here. Sometimes the number of students taking the course was lower than the number of people it took to set up for the class, you know? Yeah, so anyway, I still have all that stuff. If COVID comes back, back to hybrid sessions. Yeah, we're ready. I don't think that'll happen though. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming. I think it's sort of a unique time that you're living through, and so I'm applying to be the editor of a journal, Kidney 360, and I think that if I get it, it's because of the unusual times that we're going through. Because from teaching this course, I'm really good at sort of predicting scenarios and dealing with, you know, surprising things, right? So if it's just life as normal, I think probably wouldn't want to pick a 78-year-old guy to lead your journal. But anyway, no, I think I'd probably stand a reasonable chance because there are all sorts of surprising things happening every day. Yeah, so.
When do you find out?
Well, they're meeting at the end of February, and I'll if I'm going to be interviewed, I'll find out probably in early March. Yeah, so you guys will know. You'll know whether I succeeded or failed, right? Yeah, but you can't influence it. They don't care what you think. It's not like they're looking for that. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so I will see you probably on the 11th, and I expect to be quite jet lagged then, because I just arrived back from India the day before. But I'll probably be here, but the TA is also going to be here, so yeah, you got two people running things on that day. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Safe travels to India.